Hi! This time I wanted to share my thoughts on the recent part of the Ravenhawk campaign. It was great overall, and I think there are some valuable lessons to be obtained from that session. This video is going to contain spoilers, so if you haven't seen that part of the Ravenhawk campaign, or even part 1, please check out the playlist in the description below. Everyone did great. The addition of RPG Grandma brought this certain old school methodology to the entire thing. The entire group became so careful, so cautious in their advance. This also contains a bit of spoilers for the initial part of Curse of Strahd, of course. Now, this doesn't matter too much when it comes to spoilers for RPG Grandma, Big Bad RPG, Eli, because they have already gone through that area, and because of the way things proceeded, they won't be returning to that particular section at least. A lot of people that are still caught in the board game or even in the Mother May I pathology of playing a tabletop role-playing game, they usually criticize Curse of Strahd because that initial part, the Death House, is unfair according to them. But as I have mentioned before in other videos, many of these 5th edition modules, they are based on old school modules. In the case of Curse of Strahd, it's based on the original Ravenloft module, the first one, the very first one. So it is expected that some old school sensibilities or conventions, more realistic conventions if you will, within the fictional context, they make their way into those modules. From the very start, when RPG Grandma, Big Bad RPG and Eli went down there, they started to pay attention, to notice those small details. The three of them, in my opinion, in my perception, it seems that they are more geared towards, yes, not only roleplay, but of course a more realistic way of tackling adventures. So they started to pay attention to the tracks, the signs of activity. They started to pay attention to the chanting, the ghostly murmurs. They started to follow them. So they had an objective. They were not sidetracked. And there are some areas where there is opportunity for some rewards and experience, but considering the power of the enemies and hazards in those other sections within that underground complex, that's sure to be the bane of many parties. Many adventurers, if they have been running the adventure as presented and without roleplay, they surely met their end. I have seen some videos here in YouTube, like about 3 years ago. I watched them, ways on how you can fix the Curse of Strahd, and they were nonsensical to me because that's how adventures proceed, old school adventures specifically. You cannot expect the characters to get out of every situation unscathed or even alive. If you get into trouble, if you ignore the warnings, if you act crazy and just do whatever you like without paying attention to those signs, because sometimes things are revealed to you beforehand, you need to pay attention. Even though your character could have a low intelligence, the player is still intelligent enough to pay attention to those things. And you can roleplay that as your character being quite instinctive, or perhaps almost by pure luck that character avoided those sections, but as a player you are still playing a game. You want your character to succeed. You are not actively looking to kill your character just because it's cool, because it's the rule of cool. You are trying to get your character to survive through the ordeal. You also have that fun aspect of leveling up, obtaining new powers, spells, abilities. You are better at the use of different skills. So overall, the entire party did amazing. There were also some funny moments, and everyone had a chance to shine. In the case of RPG Grandma, when Moo, her character, the Minotaur Artificer, managed to identify every single time she identified the pattern for the sights that were going up and down the doors in that last section of the how would you say, adventure sequence. And she was tossing around Jace and Marcus through the doors because she had the timing right to get them across safely, and that was perfect. It told you a lot about Moo's character. Moo cares about his comrades, well, as much as you can when it comes to reaching your objectives. I think Moo's alignment, if I remember correctly, is chaotic neutral. A lot of people consider Conan the Barbarian to be chaotic neutral, and he has also helped his allies, because chaotic neutral characters are looking out for themselves. So if you consider that character to be necessary for your survival, you're going to be doing, perhaps even taking a few risks to help them, unlike someone in the lawful evil, or no, lawful evil perhaps, rather neutral evil or chaotic evil. You oftentimes those characters abandon their comrades because it's too much of a risk. Lawful evil, because of the lawfulness, you still have a good chance of having that character helping you out. When it comes to the fight against the shambling mound, it was amazing. First they started to do really good dealing damage, and then Moo used that electric attack, and it actually healed the shambling mound because it is healed by electricity. But Eli, playing as Marcus, truly shined, not only because of his actions but also the dice results. They really dealt a lot of damage to the thing. I think Jace got a bit unlucky when he got attacked by the arms of the shambling mound, but still, he still dealt damage to the enemy. I think the party was lucky overall in the case that the shambling mound did not connect both of its strikes against a single character, because if this monster manages to strike to connect with both hits, it engulfs the enemy and it starts to crush and suffocate the enemy. And taking into consideration that the party took some time defeating that creature, there was a pretty good chance that one of the characters would die crushed and suffocated inside of the creature, because you need to get that character out of there quickly. Well, maybe they could have attempted some other thing, right? That brings me to my next point. It is important to not to forget the old school spirit of Dungeons and Dragons. When Dungeons and Dragons first came out, the rules were not exactly clear. A lot of people, I would say even all groups that were not in contact with the Lake Geneva play group, because they weren't exactly role players, but those that weren't in contact with the Lake Geneva group, they had no precise idea on how to apply the Dungeons and Dragons rule set. So everyone came up with their own interpretations of the Dungeons and Dragons rules. And that's what made things so magical. Everyone had his or her way of running the game. So if you wanted to participate in someone else's game, you needed to become adjusted to the way that they were running things. That can be seen in the case of actual roleplay groups. You can actually see it nowadays. In the case of RPG Grandma, Eli, sorry, because biblical names, you know, I'm Abraham, Eli, Jacob, there are so many biblical names. So Eli and Big Bad RPG, they were all into the mindset that I was going to run games, the Dungeons and Dragons campaign, very different from what they normally expect. Even if there are some similarities, they need to adjust themselves to those changes. So you as a player, you need to adapt, to take it as a given that the game master, dungeon master, is going to run things his or her way, his or her style. And they adapted perfectly. They came up with those old school solutions of using the bed, a great idea by Eli, using the bed as a sort of bridge to get across the pit. Non-roleplay groups that are still stuck in the board game mindset would have thought about jumping, and that's it. Jumping across the pit. But like I said, taking into consideration that even though we have different editions of Dungeons and Dragons, you must not forget the old school lesson of the original Dave Arneson idea. Putting roleplay into the forefront, into giving priority to roleplay. Not thinking too much in terms of rules. Also apply those rulings, but also treat it as a real life situation within the fantasy context. So many people play it as a board game. I am certain that those videos that I told you about, that, oh, Curse of Strahd is so unfair, they played it like a video game or a board game. I hit the enemy hits me, I hit the enemy hits me. Take a look at how they were handling the fight with the Shambling Mound. They were trying to think of strategies and tactics. Big Bad RPG, when the Shambling Mound started to walk towards him, he used that spell as an interrupt to, that's part of one of his feats, to make it difficult for the Shambling Mound to hit him. He also, well, that's a given that they identified how the Shambling Mound was healed. It was obviously regenerating the damage when the electricity attack was used against it. Big Bad RPG, when the Shambling Mound attacked him, he described the way that he defended, because that's a tweak of my campaign. I give bonuses when the adventurers describe the way that they are trying to block, dodge, or evade, or parry, or deflect the attack, or deviate, etc. They get bonuses. So Big Bad RPG was putting great emphasis on lifting his shield, but still the thing managed to connect one of its hits. So overall, a very satisfying session, bringing the old school spirit into the present. If you are playing Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, do not forget about that. The rules are just there to support you. Give priority to the players' descriptions of their actions, of the roleplay, of the role that they are playing. Remember that you are not playing a board game. You are not an actor acting out things. No, you are describing your actions. Visualize, communicate. You are not having a conversation with the game master. You are describing your actions. As long as you roleplay, you'll find many solutions for pretty much any adventure out there. So once again, thank you for watching this video and watching the campaign. If you have any comments or questions, please let me know. We are still looking for players. If someone wants to jump in, there is still one spot available. You already know the details. If you have been watching this video, well, I'm going to link the original campaign idea video in the description, but it's all about roleplay, about having integrity, presenting. If you have videos on your channel, go for it, apply to see if you are selected. If not, I will have to interview you. If you have no videos, an interview will be conducted, but we definitely have one space for one more. I highly recommend that you consider playing in this ongoing campaign. It's still getting started. As you can see, we already have melee covered and spellcasting, divine and arcane spellcasting. I think a thief sort of character, perhaps even a monk or a ranger, would be a great addition to the game. But I am pretty confident that RPG Grandma, Big Bad RPG, and Eli will be able to take on the adventure on their own as three adventurers. Thank you for watching my videos as always, and thank you so much to those of you that are going the extra mile to support the channel. If anyone else wishes to further support the channel, the information on how to do that will be in the description below. And remember, it is better to roleplay and fail in character than not to roleplay and fail as a player. Once again, thank you, and see you later.